He checked me out, he heard my shoulder clicking a little bit, he did some poking and prodding, and he said that he thought I would need to retire from climbing.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan Devlin. I'm your host, and we have Emil Abrahamsson back on the show. And I'm just smiling from ear to ear right now. You can't see me because I'm in the podcast/utility closet, but I am smiling because there are few guests who make me as happy as when I get to chat to Emil. Maybe none. I don't know. He's just like one of the faves here for me and for the show. He's incredibly thoughtful. He's very funny. He doesn't take himself too seriously, but he is serious about everything that he does. He's a bit of an enigma, and I like that. I like that about him. He's also just such a genuine guy, and this is a genuine conversation about struggle and what happens when you think you might not ever be able to climb again, which is just like a crazy thing to try to wrap one's head around, especially if your entire life revolves around it, like Emil's. But then also how that makes you reflect and really understand what it is that you love about this sport and this community. And then coming out of something like that and climbing the hardest thing you've ever climbed in your life on a rope, which is a lot of what we dive into in this conversation here. Emil doing his first 9A or 514D. What a freaking monster. And what he learned on that, I think, is highly applicable to those of us who want to improve as route climbers with endurance, or just pushing ourselves out of our kind of quote unquote style, you know, like exploring our anti-style. It's all in this one. By the way, as you're listening to this, I think I probably will have just gotten back home from my trip to Australia, but I'm recording this prior to the trip because I really want to try to unplug and just be present with my family and do a bit of climbing and adventuring in Australia. But anyway, I'll likely be back, hopefully back and just buried in jet lag by the time this episode comes out. And I'll be excited to really get into like some hardcore endurance training and power endurance training for the fall season, which I'll talk a little bit about on the backside of this, because I learned a lot from this conversation with Emil and a lot from recent conversations that I've had with some other coaches and athletes on this show. So I'll try to distill a bit of that down for you on the backside here. But for the moment, let's just enjoy this time with Emil. He's a hell of a creator and a storyteller. He's a really good guy. I got to spend some time with him last year out in Portland at Portland Rock Gym, and then out at Smith Rock with Alan Watts, and just such a great crew of friends and total strangers, and just the psych was through the roof, as it is right now for this conversation with our good buddy Emil Abrahamsson. Where are you?
I'm currently in a place called Vättershaga here in Sweden. My dad's... Yeah, Gesundheit. All the Swedish names are so silly. Yeah.
So hold on, just let me try. I don't want to be just a dumb American. I mean, I am, but let me try not to be for a second. Vättershaga?
Vättershaga.
Vättershaga. Not Schlager.
Actually...
Schlager would be more German, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. Okay. Vättershaga.
Yeah. Where is that?
Bad. Like 40 minutes from Stockholm. Yeah.
Okay.
My dad lives here, so I'm visiting for when I'm in between traveling right now.
Paint me a picture of your father.
Okay. He looks like me, but 35 years older. And he's got a slightly bigger nose. He doesn't have eyebrows. That's a big thing, actually.
Zero eyebrows?
Yeah, 0 eyebrows. So that's a big difference as well. Like there's nothing there. And it's funny, I didn't realize that was a weird thing until sometime in my 20s when people started posting these things on Instagram where they took celebrities and removed their eyebrows. And I was like, right. That looks so weird. Wow, I've never seen that before. And then I looked at my dad and I'm like, holy, you're one of them, you know, because he looks just like a person without eyebrows. Yeah.
So does this mean that like at some point in the next 20, 30 years, your eyebrows are also going to fall off?
No, he never had them.
Oh, he never had them. Oh, how interesting.
No eyebrows. Never.
And what's his like strength situation? Does he have a freakish grip as well?
I think most of that comes from my mom, actually. He's athletic. He's good at running marathons and stuff like that. but he's freakishly afraid of heights, and he might have a good grip, but he hasn't trained it enough to... Maybe I should try it, actually. I haven't ever tested his grip. That's an interesting question, actually. I haven't tested it at all.
This could be like a nature versus nurture thing. You could put your parents against each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Have them do the thing, the squeeze thing.
It's actually kind of brilliant, yeah.
Well, I guess we've done our job. Good to see you. Have a great day. You've got a video to shoot now.
Full on genetics. That's all that matters.
Yeah, the nature versus nurture of it. Well, dude, I don't have an agenda for this conversation. I just wanted to connect with you because I always love connecting with you. And I was really psyched to see your recent 9A sport climbing ascent. We should start with that. Congratulations on that. That's freaking rad.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun.
Is it like, I don't know, we didn't plan this, obviously, but it just so happened that I decided to become a boulderer for a season and you decided to become a route climber for a season. And now are we just back? We did the thing and now we're just back and now you're a boulderer again and I'm a route climber again?
I think so, because you did your V8 and then you kind of quit bouldering, or is that the... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I quit. I've retired at the top. No, yeah. I did everything that could be done.
Yeah, I can relate. I think it's the same for me. I was like, it is kind of special to do my first 9A. It's a goal I set out when I just started climbing, when I was like 16. And I was like, one day I want to do AP plus boulder, 9A sport, and 8A trad. And then I realized that bouldering is a lot more fun for me. So I just got hooked on that for so many years. And just never really got around to actually projecting something so much and like getting into the grind of training for sport. I have sport climbed over the years, but never for more than like 2-3 weeks at a time. Like I'll have these chunks where I get into sport climbing for 2-3 weeks and then just kind of forget about it. So it actually was really sweet to get that goal done in a way. But it also was one of those like, I kind of just want to climb on site from now on. Because for me, that's in a way the most fun part of sport climbing is just like the way it feels when you have control, you know? I definitely get that appeal, at least.
Yeah. And you're very good at it. I will say for the listener as well, because I'm kind of like making light of it. I'm like, oh, you're a boulderer now. But in my limited experience, just hanging out with you at the gym, Portland Rock Gym, and then out at Smith Rock, like you're a hell of a sport climber. And maybe on-siting is because that's essentially what we were mostly doing is like just like hopping on different routes. And you know, to see you on the rope at the gym, just making really quick work of those, what I thought were quite hard routes in that big cave there that they had. And then out at Smith, getting on chain reaction, you know, one of the most classic routes out there that's like just classically sandbag as well. It's not like you were out of your element on a rope. I guess you just prefer bouldering, even though you are very good at route climbing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with climbing in general. We usually compare like apples and oranges in a way. I'm definitely a decent sport climber and have been for many years. But I think compared to what level I've been at in bouldering, I've been quite a lot worse at sport climbing, at that like top level type of projecting. I haven't had neither the tactics for it, nor the endurance, or basically the fundamental skill set that makes a really good sport climber. But if you put me on stuff that's easy enough, I know how to climb and I know how to be relatively efficient. It's just that before this process, before I tried to do my first 9A now, I could get like equally as pumped on a 7A as an 8A route, like a 5.11 and a 5.13 was about the same feeling for my body. Obviously it's different levels and I can recognize that, but it was oftentimes hard for me to see the difference, primarily because I would tense myself in ways that I wouldn't if I knew how to climb sport better, which I think I'm starting to get now.
Oh gosh, I'm really excited to unpack this. Can we just spend some time talking about this objective and how you prepared for it?
Sure.
So this is in Arco. The route was in Arco, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And let's just take a step back because you had this road trip that was like a little bit of a struggle fest. It sounded like the road trip down to Italy where you've decided to live. Are you living now in Arco?
Just moved back to Sweden over the summer, but I think I'll be heading to Arco again next season. Arco's pretty freaking great.
Yeah, no doubt. It looks really cool. So yeah, you had posted some pictures of like the van it had been broken into, or there were some other issues. It was just a bit of an epic to get down there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of need to take it from the top, I guess, because basically this whole process dates back to like 2 years ago, almost. where I started getting this streak of injuries. So first I had a pulley injury in March of 2024, and that went on for like half a year, and then I was fine for a week or two, and then I started getting another injury, and this was like a skin injury thing that made all the blood vessels in my fingers pop. And that went on for like a few months again, and suddenly I was getting back into it, and then I herniated my disc in my back.
Yeah.
And for me, I really need my body to be in tip-top shape for bouldering. Otherwise, it's not so fun. Or I shouldn't say tip-top shape, but I need to feel like I'm not having to hold back all the time. Because whenever I do, bouldering is really difficult, partly as a sport, but also just in general to enjoy. So for me, being healthy is one of the most fundamental aspects to bouldering. However, for sport climbing, I've noticed it's not quite as important. It's obviously important to not have big injuries or be, in bad shape or anything. But I think because the moves are so much easier on sport, you're fine just doing sections and like piecing moves together and just kind of letting it be a longer process on any grade, and it's still quite fun. So that sort of made me slowly transition into sport climbing in a way, because I would pick up sport to do some sort of climbing for the past 2 years in between these injury streaks. And then again, it would be like 2-3 weeks of sport climbing, and then I would start to feel better again, and I'd get back into bouldering. I would have these waves of injuries just coming and going in a way, culminating actually in like what I thought was the worst injury of my life this summer, where my shoulder just checked out. It said goodbye and just wouldn't work. Like I couldn't do a single pull-up. I couldn't train basically in a regular fashion at least. And I was like, this is really bad. So I went to an orthopedic surgeon who was like, he checked me out. He heard my shoulder clicking a little bit. He did some poking and prodding. And he said that he thought I would need to retire from climbing because he thought I had arthritis in the shoulder, and straight up said like, you should definitely look to do something else in life, which was like quite a big turning point for me. We did an MRI that same day, and I was waiting for the results for around a month. And it gave me a lot of time to reflect basically on what climbing is to me, why I do it, what I love about it. It made me reflect on a lot of my goals and what I want to be able to do with my body. And a few weeks later, I'd sort of found this inner peace. I was like, okay, maybe I'll need to find different ways to appreciate climbing. Maybe I'll do more route setting. Maybe I'll do like something else in climbing, or just because I love the sport so deeply. And I just wanted to keep being involved in it one way or another, even if it meant my shoulder not maybe functioning to its highest capacity. The MRI came back, and it turns out the guy was dead wrong. And basically, he couldn't really figure out what was wrong, but it was still kind of like oh, okay, so I can keep on climbing. And he was like, yep, you're fine, you're good. And I was like, oh my God. So I've just had like a month of soul searching and like, criticizing my entire, because obviously with the YouTube channel, I do need to be able to climb it's what I do for work, and it's what I do in general. And it's like, I really had to dig in deep with those emotions. And then to just have it flip around like, oh, nothing's wrong, like that he could see in an MRI, was a bit of an interesting process, you could say.
Yeah, I'd actually love to explore that just for a second here. It evokes a story that my dad just told me, actually, like a couple months ago. We were having coffee, and he told me this story that I had never heard before, where when he had just become a father, I wasn't born yet, but my sister was, he was misdiagnosed with like a terminal cancer, and they told him like it was going to be maybe a month. And then like he went in for more tests like a couple weeks later, and they were like, oh no, those are actually just spots on the x-ray. You're totally fine. And like, he was like, I went through this period where, obviously it's very different being told like you can never climb. It's, you can still have like a great life in a marriage or whatever, but it puts you in the same position where you kind of have to start exploring these big questions. And like, for you, as you noted, you're like, well, what does climbing mean to me? And what is this going to mean for me? And it's awesome now knowing that you can climb, just like as my dad told me, like, and I am fine. And so like, you can kind of look back at that, what was, I'm sure, like an incredibly stressful and emotional period of like self-reflection and reckoning. You can look back at it, maybe with a little bit of a smile now. And I was just recently asked in a conversation about kind of mindset around climbing, and Angus was like, why do you climb? And it was like such a therapy session because we just kept drilling down to try to find the why. Not like the surface why, like, oh, it makes me feel good, or I like to be out, you know, some of those things are important, but like, he's like, but why that? Then why that? And we kept drilling down, and I like just went blank. And I was like, what? I don't know why like, I really am going to have to explore this. And it sounds like you did a bit of that soul searching as well. And I'm curious just what you discovered in that time when you thought that maybe you wouldn't be able to climb anymore.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I mean, it's an incredibly difficult question because I haven't heard like a lot of people describe climbing in the way that really resonates with me in that way, except for Adam Ondra when he was talking about how it feels to flash a boulder. It becomes almost like this spiritual thing, and it really, there is no better way for me to describe why I climb than that. It's just like the way I feel when I climb is like the best feeling in the world, when I feel like dialed in and like in the zone. And it isn't much more complex than that to me, but it is that in and by itself is really complex. So right. It's because it's the word spiritual that really goes with it for me quite well, even though that sounds pretty flimsy and strange.
I don't think it does, probably. For most listeners right now who are really, you know, psyched on climbing, who love it, I think that's relatable.
Yeah. Because it's not about like having to achieve things or feeling strong or any of those things that would make sense also. It's really just this sort of weird abstract headspace I get into when I'm climbing that means the world to me. And the idea of not ever being able to really access that, because it does come with the feeling of, I don't want to say strong, but like in control. And the idea that I would always have pain in my shoulder whenever I was climbing was quite heartbreaking. And that's one of the things that I focus a lot on. Like I'm going to miss that feeling so much, and I want to find it through other avenues in climbing. Again, could be coaching, could be route setting, could be something else, but just I realized like I do not want to leave climbing even if I can't climb, which was also quite a great insight to have in many ways for me. Just a beautiful idea, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that it's just so part of your like kind of inner makeup, your fabric, that even if you can't push yourself the hardest you could ever push yourself, you still really want to be in climbing. But then you get this news where you're like, oh, oops, you know, you're good. So it's like a new lease on life. But obviously you were still injured. The injury wasn't fake, just the diagnosis of it.
Exactly. But that's, I guess, the next point of that little story of how I got into projecting the 9A is that as soon as he told me it wasn't as bad as he thought, I was already rehabbing, but I think I went like, you know, I don't know what the best word is for it, but I just went so deep into the rehab trench. I was just like, I need to recover. I'm going to recover. I'm going to do everything in my power to recover. So I had a very rigorous sort of rehab protocol, like where I was documenting a lot of what I was doing and really making sure I was on the right trajectory, even though at the time it was quite hard to fully believe it, because like I couldn't perform a single pull-up between early July, like middle of July until end of November, I think it was. So for like 5 months or so, I could not for the life of me perform a pull-up. Like if you put a gun to my head, I would just not get over the bar, which was super strange because usually with injuries, I've had it that they slowly get better and better. They might have like a slow start, but then they just get better and better incrementally. But this almost became good overnight in a way.
The thing that was preventing you from completing even a single pull-up, was it pain or actual like an inability to hit like the range?
Mostly an inability. Like I had pain for sure, but like I'm pretty good at pushing through pain. Like I've had tendonitis many times and I would still be able to do a one-arm pull-up on a tendonitis elbow, even though that's really painful. I shouldn't do it, but I'd be fine climbing with that tendonitis and stuff like that. But this was an actual inability. Like I could not move my body, which, was super strange. I tried like once a week to do a pull-up or so just to see. And I, of course, didn't give it my all because it was painful. But even if I tried, I don't think I would have had a chance until that sometime in November, which was strange because my climbing style has always been based quite a lot on power and pulling strength and that pull-up motion. But that's kind of where a lot of lessons started coming in, because I managed to climb with a straight arm and that was fine. Like I didn't have pain as long as I kept my arm in an almost fully extended to a slightly contracted position, like a small shrug sort of, or like small, small pulling motion I could do. Just as soon as the elbow started bending, kind of, that's where I would start to feel, or basically not be able to move the arm anymore and feel pain. So I did climb on the kilter board with a straight arm for like 3-4 months or so. No, 3 months between September and November. And it helped me progress quite a lot, actually, because it forced a different type of movement pattern that I haven't really experienced before. So I would apply a lot more pressure on my feet. I would be sure to use my feet and hips as much as I could in any form of power move, because obviously on the kilter board you have quite a lot of quite powerful moves. So not being able to do a pull-up when doing them just made it, some of the boulders just straight up impossible. But a lot of climbs, you would often just do like a one-arm pull-up because it was the easiest way through the climb. Like just pull really hard and you'd be fine doing the climb. But I noticed since I couldn't do that anymore, there was actually a lot of room for me to improve in my footwork on a board and sort of within that terrain, which was, just interesting in general, because I think in climbing, we're often built by our strengths and our weaknesses. Like if you suck at toe hooks, you're most likely not going to place a lot of toe hooks, even when they're just in front of you. You just ignore them because you say, oh, I suck at them. So you'll do like a heel hook or stand on the foot instead. And vice versa. If you're really strong, you might just power through something. And we're all sort of aware of this, but it's very hard to practice like in the right way, I find it. But this really forced me to train in a different way than I think I've ever have, which sort of started to change my movement pattern and also made sport climbing a lot more interesting, because you rarely pull very hard in sport climbing. Like you can almost always keep a somewhat straight arm when you're moving around. So when November hit and I could start doing my first pull-up again, I was so psyched. I've never been that psyched on a pull-up in my entire life. Like I was like screaming over this like one single body-weighted pull-up, like holy shit, so psyched, which was great. Like that was a really cool feeling. And from that day on, I was like, okay, I want to have a goal in climbing, where like a performance goal. But I do not want to get back into bouldering for at least like half a year. Well, I say back into bouldering, like performance bouldering. I've been bouldering throughout all the years with my injuries, but just there's quite a difference between performing in bouldering and just bouldering because it's a good workout. And I knew then that like I do not want to go into performance mode, but I did want to do it with sport climbing. And especially with moving to Arco, it was time to find something to bite my teeth into.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what a journey. I mean, I'm so happy to hear that you've kind of come out the other side of all of that. Just reflecting, we don't have to belabor the injury stuff all too much. I mean, as climbers, we're going to go through our ups and downs of injuries and recoveries. But were you ever able to identify the causation for those? Was it insane farmer carries in strength videos?
From my strongman career, you mean? No. I shouldn't say that I've fully diagnosed it, but I think from my understanding, talking to physios and trying to get an idea of what was going on, my lat basically and subscapularis like kind of checked out. So they just stopped responding to my brain signals to activate essentially. So everything else had to compensate in the shoulder, and effectively it just didn't work. It's like the muscle didn't exist is how it felt. Wow. And it's actually kind of interesting because I
neurological.
The
neurological more than any sort of like tear or rip or whatever. Yeah, from some sort of overusage. I think technically I was kayaking and climbing too much for like 2 weeks or something in the summer, and then it just checked out. And it was quite interesting actually, because back in January, like a few months after I started training again, I did a health checkup. And the doctor actually, he had no idea about my injury, but he was supposed to sort of authorize if I'm healthy or not for this thing I was doing. And he actually looked at my back and he was like, do you not train your right side? Because my lat had sort of atrophied, I guess, from not being activated for so many months. Right. And I had no idea of this thing, like, because I don't look at my back in the mirror, obviously. So I didn't know that it was smaller, but apparently my right lat had like shrunk, which is super strange. You're like the uneven man. What's that guy? The guy that only trains the one side of his body?
Yeah, that's how it felt. Yeah. I didn't notice it that much like in climbing, that it was a difference. But yeah, no, he visibly, like from just looking at my back, was like, wow, your left lat is so much bigger than the right one.
How interesting.
Yeah, super strange. I had no idea.
This episode is sponsored by our friends over at PhysiVantage. By the way, PhysiVantage has been a sponsor of this podcast since the very first episode, and that's because I sought them out. I've been a fan and a paying customer of PhysiVantage since long before there was a Struggle Climbing show. And why would that be, Ryan? Well, because it works, y'all. Their products are made by climbers for climbers. They are science-backed, and then I have just been testing them on myself, a guy in his mid-40s just trying to get after it and level up day after day and year after year. And the PhysiVantage products have really helped me to feel better on and off the rock. My favorite products that I take every single day are the greens. I have those every morning, and I'm telling you, I'm getting sick way less than I ever used to, and I've got 2 young kids, so that's saying a lot. And then I also take their supercharged collagen before every single workout, whether it's a finger training or a climbing day, and their protein. I have their vegan protein or their whey protein, usually once a day, sometimes twice a day, as like my little treat. Their chocolate flavor is like out of this world. I'll mix it in with plain Greek yogurt for even more protein, or I'll just shake it into some cold water. It's just that good. I love everything they make, and I love how I feel. If you want to push yourself in your training and in your climbing, I really do think PhysiVantage is going to make you feel better. And if you want to get a discount, you can use code STRUGGLE15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. That also helps to support me and the show, which I really appreciate, and all of that information is in your show notes. This episode is supported by Arc'teryx, and I'm going to be out in Squamish, BC again this August, just as I was last year, for the Arc'teryx Academy. And I'm telling you, if you haven't been out for an academy, if you have a chance to get out for an academy, I could not recommend it more. I just had the best time last year out there. Arc'teryx does it right. They bring in their entire athlete team. So basically like every superstar climber is just walking around the streets of Squamish. They put on clinics. They have incredible film premieres and programming for a few nights. This year, the Academy is taking place August 21st through 23rd in Squamish. I'm going to be hosting some of the programming. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be doing a couple live happy hour podcasts with friend of the show, Chris Kalous from the Enormocast. So Chris and I are going to be teaming up, doing a couple live podcasts, a bunch of giveaways, and then just hanging out and climbing and taking part in all of the incredible programming that Arc'teryx puts on. And if you haven't been out to Squamish, it's just got it all. It's got world-class bouldering, single-pitch sport, trad, and then, of course, multi-pitch there on the Chief. I did a little bit of everything last year, and I'm going to do a little bit more of everything this year, and I would love to see you there. You can learn all about it over at arcteryxacademy.com. I'll see you in Squamish. You said you went like hard into rehab, you were working with pros, and were able to train to some extent through this in a more of a sport climbing way. So you're working on some efficient climbing, using your feet more, all good things, all things that will translate to bouldering as well, just using all of our limbs a little bit better. But during this, did you have the 9A project identified, or had you not shopped around yet?
I definitely not shopped around yet, because I was still in the mindset of just like, I want to be able to climb again. you know, that was the only focus. I actually wasn't sure I would be climbing anything close to like my limit in the coming year or two. I think at some point when you have a lot of injuries, you do sort of start to lose hope in a way. You feel like, oh, I'm never going to climb hard again. Like it's not in the books for me, which is good and bad, because it's good when you're not like too psyched on something and just keep getting held back. But at the same time, I think it's important to believe and trust in the process that things are going to get good again. But at that point, it's just been such a crazy series of injuries that I was just like, I can't imagine climbing hard right now. And I wasn't training for sport climbing so much. It's more like the style that I was climbing on a kilter board transfers really well to sport climbing, because it's just straight arms and like being able to hang on the limbs and really just relax in all the positions. So I'd mostly been doing like short kilter board sessions for a few months, like an hour to an hour and a half, and just sort of moving, which I think in a way, I think my body was quite well rested to start training hard. So then when I got to Arco, I was starting to check out some projects. And at first I was just climbing whatever was around, whatever I saw for the heck of it, which was really fun. And then at some point I was like, I should maybe try and find a 9A if we're going to stick around here for a while. And I just randomly started chatting with Adam Ondra about the climbing in Arco, because he lives there as well. And he's like the friendliest guy in the world. And so, it's like, he's so psyched on climbing. I mean, you've talked to him, yourself. Totally. Like he's just the best. And he recommended the route to me. at that
cool.
time. And I was like, when Adam recommends a route, it's not, I was kind of expecting it to be like half past impossible.
Right.
But it turned out to be just like the perfect recommendation for me, process-wise, because it's basically breaks down into 2 somewhat hard boulders and then like an endurance exit. Like you keep climbing for a little bit until you're either falling or make it to the top, which was quite good for a boulder. Like it's a nice transition because it was very endurance based. So I needed to train that aspect of it, but not so much that it's just straight up hanging on your joints throughout the entire route. Like you had to do a lot of difficult climbing and then relax. Difficult climbing, relax, which I personally really enjoy as well because it flows well with my climbing style. And it was an incredibly interesting process because I needed to learn what it means to climb, like to recover on a hold fully to be able to climb the next part, which is something I haven't really ever done before. Like it's by far hardest route I've done or even tried in many ways. And even though I've tried a 9A here and there over the years, I've only done them like in a few sections, just kind of dabbling a bit, but never gone into like the red point aspect of it. So I didn't realize before just how difficult it is to manage recovery versus climbing efficiency. Because if you just speed run through everything, you just pump out and you can't really do anything. But at the same time, if you're too slow and just try and recover on every hold, well, that's something you need to practice for decades to really have that sort of, the oxygen running through your system enough so that you don't just power out. And this route just became the perfect playground for that for me. Like I really had to figure out how my body works in lead climbing.
Can you tell us about what that first session was like on there, how you broke it down and what you identified as maybe being the hardest? I mean, were you able to do all the moves on day one?
Yeah, I did all the moves on day one, and I think I did it in 3 parts on the second session.
Cool.
And I was pretty cocky on the second session because I was like, 3 parts, wow, this is going to go down right away. Because it was like kind of bouldery, so I was like, this is going to be piss easy. Turns out that's not quite the case. I think on the 3rd session or something, I made it past the first crux and going into the second one. And I just couldn't do like a single move after, just power scream hanging on the biggest jugs in the world.
Right.
And that was like, definitely an interesting process to see how, even though moves and parts of a route can feel quite easy, that's so far from when you're actually able to link it together when it's when it's a longer route. I think it's maybe like, it's not a long route at all. It's like 20-25 meters or so. It's like, it's that 60-70 feet or so.
Yeah, it's relatively short for sport climbing standards, I think, but that also speaks that there's some really hard moves on there then.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, it's not so short that it's a boulder, but not so long that you really need to just recover all the time. But because it's so short, I was like, I'll do this in like the next go, was how my brain was wired to think, because I just didn't know what happens to my body when I'm pushed in the climbing that much. Because the hardest thing I'd done before was like an 8B plus route, so 514A on 3rd go or so. So like pretty...
That was the hardest sport route you had done?
Yeah, I've never climbed 8C or 8C plus.
Hell yeah. I went from V4 to V8. Yeah. You went to 9A. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, I was doing an interview for 8A.nu and I was like, wait, how much have I climbed sport? And I realized I'd done, was it 9 or 10 routes between 8A and 8B plus in total since I started climbing.
That is it. Amazing.
And 6 of those were in my first 4 years of climbing.
Right. Yeah. So you're like fully out of your element. Okay, so then you identified, I'm assuming the bouldery sequences were very much in your wheelhouse. So it was an issue of recovery or efficiency in order to kind of keep the pump clock on your side.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much spot on.
And so what did you do? Were you training just on the route for this, or were you trying to do some stuff off route as well?
I would say I was mostly trying to do stuff off route. I would never give more than 2 attempts in a day on the route. And I would just give red point attempts or like from the middle to the top or so. So like I wouldn't work on the route that much. I would just try it maybe once a week to see how my body was doing on it, because the moves I knew pretty well right away, like how to do them kind of okay. But the difference is in pacing and understanding like, okay, how long do you stay on this rest, etc., which is just something that's really hard to train on the wall, I feel like. Like you can keep trying the route, but in the end, what really matters is having just the ability to recover. So I did quite a lot of circuit boards and that type of training, I would say. That's where most of the endurance had to come from. Like I'm sure I could have just trained on the routes time and time again, but it's not like quite the process that I wanted. Because if I did, I think I would have gotten more sick of it, because then I would just be waiting for the process to be over. You can practice on a route forever and you'll most likely do it in the end if you just keep grinding it down, which is a great way to send stuff. But for me, this wasn't so much about trying to complete the route. This was about learning sport climbing, learning this sort of discipline in climbing and what it takes from your body. Like, why did I get tired at a certain point? If I just optimize every move to oblivion and just session on it like 3 days a week, yeah, I probably would have done it a little bit faster maybe, but I wouldn't have learned anywhere near as much about how my body reacts to that type of climbing.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of not off the wall, but like circuit board training.
Like you're on a spray wall and you're doing, just break it down for me. Like how were you structuring it?
Yeah, like 30 moves on a circuit board. So basically semi-decent holds, just climbing as long as I can.
And resting on the wall, or just climbing those 30 moves and hopping off for an X amount of time?
So what I was trying to do is I was trying to get as like pumped and wrecked as I could, and then find a good rest, like either a bucket jug or like a knee bar or something. And then right after that, do like a bouldery sequence. And then same thing again, try and get wrecked, recover. So basically splitting it up as the route was in a way, but not like with necessarily replica training or like trying to get the exact same stimulus. Because again, the big goal was to learn how to like get to a jug and recover. Because I basically didn't know how to do that before. Like I would get to a jug and just get smashed trying to rest on it. So the only way I could sport climb before this process was to just keep on rolling, like never resting. And I could make it quite far on a route. Like I'd be fine for a while. But once the wall hits, you're just like, you slam right into it unless you know how to like calm your heart rate down. And also to do that at the right spots on the route. So like right after the first boulder crux, it's graded around like an 8A V11 boulder. And right after that, like I don't feel fatigue whatsoever. I feel almost fully fresh. But the thing is, I'm definitely not fresh after a V11 boulder.
Right.
Nobody really is. Like everyone's going to be a little bit tired, but it feels that way. And that's the big difference. Recognizing that I don't really know my body as well as I think I do on the route was a big key to sort of progressing in sport climbing for me. So that I actually, like, when I have the time to relax and breathe and sort of think and calm my body down, like really find those spots and use them, has been super cool for me.
Man, I really love that. Just becoming more in touch with how we feel is such an incredible takeaway. It's so much more valuable than ticking any sort of individual climb, is having that knowledge. And how did that evolve then over that process? Were you becoming more and more in tune with when you might need to rest, or even force a rest because you know the fatigue is coming, even though if it's not quite apparent?
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way to put a percentage on it, but like thousands times better in a way. Like, not to sound overly hyperbolic about it, but for that route and for like the process of a hard sport climb that can be sort of divided into these bouldery sections, I would say I improved like tremendously. I think a next step for me would be to add like another 9A on top of it. Like, could I recover for that? Could I relax for that? Or how messed up would I get if I had to keep on climbing?
Yeah.
Because on the actual send go of the route, I was surprisingly fresh at the top, which was really cool because I've been pumped out of my mind before, like just the session before on the route. But I felt like I executed it to what felt like perfection at the time for me. Like, it felt really, really good. Every move and in particular, every rest felt almost perfect.
And what were those rests like? I mean, I saw you had at least one knee pad on, right? Was there a knee bar in there, but it was still active on the hands?
Yeah, I find knee bars very interesting in a sport climbing point of view, because there's not like a good knee bar rest as in, as they are in flat iron, where you kind of jam your knee in and then you take a power nap. They're extremely active. Like right after that first 8A boulder, you have a no-hands knee bar, but I would say if I had to hold it for 20 seconds, I would most likely slip off. So you definitely don't hold it for 20 seconds unless you're exceptionally good at that type of a knee bar.
Sure.
So basically what I'd end up doing is like tense my hips quite a lot and sort of squeeze my knee with my feet together, which creates a different type of tension than the one you've just had. And it's, for me, quite tricky to sort of divide that so you're not like straining everything, because if you're too tense, you can't recover your arms even if you're no hands. Not that much, at least. So that's a bit of a skill I had to develop on the route also. So yeah, there's like 2 of those rests where you can sort of use your knees to recover a little bit more. And yeah, I don't know if it matters if you're on your knee or on your hands, whatever it is, but it's more like how to really relax, like get all the force through your feet, all the force through your legs, and like sort of separating your body parts so that one body part can recover while the other are doing the work. That for me feels like the key to progressing in sport climbing for me. Because whenever I rest, if I'm on a jug, for instance, like I can't relax like anything really, or I couldn't before. I would like strain the jug really hard and then just shake as fast as possible, switch, shake the other as fast as possible. And yeah, I feel like that skill for me is valuable to keep learning about.
It's so funny because like it is the exact photo negative of the process that I went through when I started training on my kilter full ride. And I was working with a coach and like would send him videos and he's like, why are you trying to relax? These are 4 move boulders, but I can like literally see you hit a hold and try to kind of like sag into it. He's like, you're not sport climbing anymore, man. This isn't, you just need to try 100% on every move and then just get the thing done. But like, I was so in my mind, I so want to relax on everything. And then you were the opposite. You're on like a jug rest and you're like still gripping it as if it's like, a crux move. It's a really like a mental shift that has to happen, which for me came with just doing it over and over and over again. I still don't think I'm very good at it, but like I got to the point where I needed it to be. And obviously you did as well, which is cool. Like there's still a lot of skills to be learned as climbers if we just try something different. And I don't know, like will anything that you've picked up doing that route, will that translate over to bouldering at all, or are these just new skills unlocked for when you tie in next?
I feel like it's helped tremendously for my bouldering. Like
cool.
Even though I am in many aspects quite weak for my bouldering, like previous bouldering strength, I feel better at bouldering than I at times ever have. Like it feels really good. And it's just because that sort of switch in climbing style helps a lot. It's like more pressure on the feet, less just pure pulling power, that kind of stuff. And I do feel that you with sport climbing really learn how to relax and sort of be more precise with how much you're pulling on every hold in a way, which does help for bouldering as well. Like unless you're doing a 1 move boulder problem like a dyno, it definitely helps to just have more control and body awareness when climbing.
I mean, for me, I know that the bouldering work that I did has translated very well to route climbing because when I get to a crux, I'm able to like just turn it on. I can go into bouldering mode a lot better than I was before, but I wasn't sure about it going the other way. But that does make a lot of sense, especially for longer boulders where you need to tense and relax and have a little power in the tank for a last couple of moves. How long was the process like of this route from, day 1 to finish?
I tried it, I guess, over 3 months' time or so.
Okay. And then spent a lot of that time training for it as well. So you were doing like 3 months of pretty focused like power endurance training.
Yeah, I would say I started doing a bit of endurance training in December, like a month or and a half before I tried the route. But yes, very much more focused in after trying it from like January until April.
Did the shoulder bother you at all during this process or anything else?
That's the crazy thing. Like as soon as the shoulder there in November, as soon as the shoulder was good, it's just been good. Like I haven't had any problems at all with it. Super strange.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah.
You were like paralyzed. You couldn't, you were atrophied. And then it just like the switch turned back on and it was like, oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how much hard stuff you can do without being able to do a pull-up. I think that's also a valuable lesson for me in that process. Is like pull-ups are really fun and nice to be able to do, but they do not help with climbing. Like they can in certain aspects, but they are almost pointless. Not fully, but like you'll get a basic pull-up strength from climbing, But wow, they are not necessary to like climb at your limits, I think.
You know, that's interesting because I've heard other climbers talk about this as well, but then like weighted pull-ups and one arms and all of this seem to be so common in people's exercise rotation and even assessments. If you do, you know, an assessment, oftentimes it's like, what's your weighted pull-up or your 2 rep max weighted pull-up? And if not the pull-ups, because people have bad elbows or shoulders, or they just hate doing pull-ups, there still needs to be something for that lock off. You know, what's the trade-off, I guess? What are you doing instead of pull-ups?
There's 2 things to it, because I do think pull-ups, like, they're obviously important for a climber in many aspects, but it's more like how important is each skill set. If you could just double all of your strength benchmarks, like your bench press and your pull-up strength and your everything, that's probably good for you. Like, it's not going to hurt, but it's more like how important they are compared to what you're trading. And I do think climbing is an incredibly skill-heavy sport and also mindset-heavy sport. Like, it's not bad to train pull-ups, but I think it's important not to think, oh, I need to be strong at pull-ups to be able to climb harder. That's, I guess, the big takeaway more than anything, is that it's not going to hurt unless you hurt yourself. Like, if you injure yourself doing it, it's obviously bad, but the actual strength for it, I don't think is so necessary. It will depend on the goals, of course. Like, I've definitely climbed some boulders where I did need the pull-up for, but it's shocking how much you can get away with without having that strength.
I mean, you couldn't do pull-ups at all, and you were still climbing very advanced grades, relatively speaking. What are you training then? Injuries aside, aside from kind of climbing, which you do quite a bit of, what are the absolute must-haves that you're continuing to train?
I've noticed I really appreciate working up my cardiovascular abilities, and I think you can do that pretty much any way you like, if it's hiking or biking or walking or talking.
That is so far from the answer I thought you were going to get. Like, Emil Abrahamsson, the boulderer, is talking about training up his general cardio. Let's go, dude. Let's go. Let's unpack this. What are you doing?
I mean, honestly, I'm not doing much specific aside from like the circuits. Like, those are definitely there, but just trying to encourage myself to go on a lot of walks and to always use my body. It's quite helpful to just get that baseline going, to like not taking a car to places, like biking instead and walking to places and hiking. I think all of those are really valuable assets to have that doesn't really affect the training so much. I don't go running, for instance, so much, mostly because for me, running will sometimes be detrimental towards my climbing, or it has been in the past, because I'll get like tired and then climb worse because I ran. But if you walk the same distance, you're probably not going to be as tired.
It just takes twice as long.
Takes twice as long. Maybe you're not going to get quite the same level of fitness, but I think in general, just keeping the heart going as much as possible has been quite good for me in the past year or so.
And this is, aside from the sport climbing goal that you had when you did the 9A, you're just saying in general, like a cardio base, a generalized cardio base is good for you as a climber.
I think so. I think it helps a lot with just recovery and, you know, keeping the body healthy.
All right, y'all, just a quick break here to tell you about an app that I have helped to develop. It's been in the works for more than a year, and it has really changed how I have been training and how I've been identifying and then blowing through plateaus, and that is an app called Intentional Climber. And I'm so excited about this, you guys. I've been using it kind of on the down low, like secretly beta testing it for many months now. And it was my main tool to help me structure my training, my reflection, my mindset, and my projecting process as I went from V4 to V8, ultimately sending my big proj, Bulldog, out here at the Red River Gorge. And Intentional Climber was with me, and they're supporting me every step of the way. So what's the deal? I mean, look, it's an app, okay? It's a training app. So it's got like all the exercises and timers in there. You can do strength assessments and track those with charts over time. You know, all the things that I think we've come to expect with climbing training apps. So what makes it different? Well, it was designed specifically for people like you and me who are very busy climbers so that we can get the most out of every session, so that we're more focused, more consistent, more motivated, and more reflective on every single session that we have, whether that's at a gym, at our house, on a hangboard, or outside. Intentional Climber was built to help us form better habits as climbers, so we're not wasting any sessions. And then we've also got coach plans in there from world-class coaches. So if you download right now and you use code STRUGGLE, not only are you going to get a discount on the app, but you're also going to unlock a Stronger Fingers program from Coach Chris Hampton of Power Company Climbing. That's an 8-week program designed specifically for busy climbers to get stronger fingers in a short amount of time. It's an awesome program, and you get it for free just by using code STRUGGLE. You can download it on the App Store or over at Google Play. I'll put a link right there in your show notes. And again, use code STRUGGLE when you're signing up for it, and that's where you'll get those special perks on Intentional Climber. All right, let's get after it. What are you doing with your upper body, just in terms of, if we're going to set kind of weighted pull-ups aside, just for the purposes of the exploration here? Are you still doing hangboarding?
Yeah, I mean, I do my daily hangs quite regularly.
Abrahamsson.
Abrahamsson, yeah. I think in general, finger strength will be one of the most determining factor for climbing performance. Like, if you have stronger fingers, it's always going to be a good thing. The biggest issue with training fingers is the fact that you get injured if you do it too much, or if you don't do it controlled enough. That's like a whole, we could talk about that for weeks, how to train fingers, and I wouldn't come up with the right answer anyways. I think that's super personal, what you need. Like me, as a climber, I have quite weak fingers, but a very good grip strength. Like my crushing grip is strong, my pinching strength is strong, but my actual, like how the tendons hold up in a strict half crimp, for instance, that's relatively weak for the level that I climb at. Mm-hmm. So do you train your strengths, or do you train your weaknesses for fingers? I would say you should train both in general, and that it's incredibly goal specific. For me, it's a lot easier to train my strengths and a lot more fun in a way. But for sport climbing specifically, training my weaknesses has been quite important, because you're almost always in this sort of half crimp position. So just being able to hold that for longer has also been valuable. So I have done a little bit of finger specific stuff. It's just so easy to overdo it. That's the problem for me. That's why I like the hangboard protocol, like the daily hangs, because it's just lower impact. And for me, it's like quite clear, accumulative, that if I'm on a board climbing, that's like the best thing I can do for finger strength. But then if I add max hangs on top of that, it's really hard for me to control it, so I'm not overdoing anything. Again, personal. Some people are great at max hangs training, and then you should just do those.
Right. No, I hear you. I think the physiology, the goals, just health history, training history, all of that comes into play. So there's no just kind of cookie cutter protocol. But I just had a conversation with Noah Wheeler, who had a full A2 rupture, and then a few months later sent Burden of Dreams and made it look easy.
What was that about? I mean, come on, dude. I was like, what?
That's what I said. I was like, dude, what is this? He's like, look, I'm a freak. All right.
Yeah.
I just that is the answer to your question, is that on this style, on these holds, I'm just an outlier. And I was like, you know what? That's probably the best frickin' answer anyone could give.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a great answer. And I think such an important takeaway, that it's like, climbing is personal. What you enjoy as a climber is also personal, and you should adapt everything to that and take sort of these bits and pieces from people who inspire you and try and gather them for yourself. It's kind of a shit answer because you don't get much information from it, but I genuinely feel that way, that it's like you have genetic freaks for everything. Like, I'm a genetic freak when it comes to this weird grip strength stuff. That just comes super natural to me, and it applies to my climbing, but it makes me quite a bit of an outlier in climbing, because most of the people who, let's say, boulder 8B and above, they have freak finger strength, and I don't.
Yeah.
So
you kind of find your specific superpowers, and that's applicable to us weekend warriors as well. Some are going to be better at recovering, some with steep climbs or balancy stuff, and either ride the horse in the direction it's going, or push yourself out of your comfort zone like you did here with the 9A. And
what I will say, though, is that I do feel that it's incredibly valuable to sort of step outside of your lane at times as well, kind of like I did on the kilter board with the straight arm climbing. That was a bit revolutionary for my kilter board abilities and that style. I just learned so much from not being able to perform a certain move.
Yeah, that restriction, I mean, it wasn't a self-imposed restriction, it was like an injury-imposed restriction, but also we can put those on ourselves. and say, oh, I'm not going to do heel hooks today, so that you're forced to do toe hooks if that's something that you would typically avoid. It takes some discipline to do that, but every time I talk to coaches, that's one of the benefits of working with a coach is they can put these guardrails on our training and essentially force us to do the things that we don't want to do because we feel silly.
Yeah.
Did you feel silly on this route at all, Emil? And I'm curious, we didn't talk about the head game at all, but were there any fears of falling or any other just baggage that came along with tying into a rope?
Yeah, I guess we could touch on that. I'm super afraid of falling, When we talk about on-sighting, I am shit scared when I'm on-sighting on anything basically.
Yeah.
If I don't have the quick draw 30 centimeters away from me, I'm like, fuck! I'm so destroyed right away there. And then
of falling. You don't know if the next hold is going to be good, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Going for a hold and just not caring about what happens if you can't hold it or whatever is really scary to me. I'm shit scared when lead climbing in general. I will say on this route, I was maybe not too scared because I was so focused on the goal of just climbing it. And also once I've climbed the route, run through it, it's a lot easier for me to be more relaxed because I trust in my ability to do the moves more. And if I fall, it's more oh, what happened there? I won't fall because I'm going for a hold and just kind of not knowing where it is and just missing it and over tensing or anything. So if I practice a route, I get away from the fear of falling immediately. But that's why I'd like to be more comfortable with on-sites and want to do more of them, because then I would feel a lot more safe and comfortable on the wall than I do.
Do you have a practice that you do or anything that helps you to work through those feelings, whether it's before you pull onto the rock or just when you're in the middle of an on-site and that stuff creeps in because you're a few moves above the last bolt?
I think one of these, if we go into the mental aspects of sport climbing, I think the single most important factor is just go mentality. Just being really cocky and almost arrogant that I got this, I'm the boss, kind of. That goes for any sport climb, even if I'm projecting it or if I'm on-sighting it, getting into the headspace of I own this route. It's so easy for me. I'm in full control. Helps tremendously for me. And I feel a lot of people I talk to as well, that sort of mentality is a bit of a key. And I think you can almost fake it till you make it. I think it's possible for a lot of people to really go into that zone of I'm going to crush this. Just get cocky, get arrogant, whatever it is, I think helps with both the fear of falling, but also just the climbing ability on a route. Because it's so much about just being trusting in your own ability to be able to do moves on the route. Because in general, if you're projecting something that's not way above your climbing ability movement-wise, you should be able to do all the moves easily. And usually that's what happens when you decide okay, I just got to own this and do it. For me at least, yeah.
And you said when you sent this one, it felt easy. And I think a lot of people who are listening can probably relate to that. I can as well. Sometimes you desperately clip the anchors or top out, and I've certainly had those experiences, but sometimes the hardest thing you ever do doesn't even feel that hard, which is wild. And so what is your takeaway from that experience as you just kind of close the chapter on the 9A?
How do you mean?
You kind of went through this journey of trying to tap into the feelings of your body and really how to understand a sport climber's body, how to recover, listen to it. And then when you did the thing, you obviously executed very well because when you got to the top, it wasn't like a desperate fight. What does that tell you about you as a climber? Maybe, are there other sport climbing goals on the horizon as a result? Or, what are you going to be taking away from this thing?
I do definitely want to do some more sport climbs. I think I'd now that I'm finally getting into my healthy body again, not being so injured, I have quite a lot of performance goals I'd like to do. In one way, I would like to have, let's say, 5 8C boulders in the luggage and maybe 3 9A routes. I would like to have achieved that in the coming year or two. That would be a pretty sick goal. So that's something that crossed my mind. I was I'd like to sort of build this upper pyramid a little bit and work that. That'd be nice in terms of grade performance. I do, however, think that the most important part for me will be finding a striking route that gets me psyched. So that will be the next thing in sport, I think. Regardless of what grade it is, I'll just try it and see where it takes me. When I say that the route felt easy, it definitely felt really, really hard still. But I did have that feeling of full control when I was climbing it and just listening to what my body was saying. And I connected when I did the route to my body more than I ever have in climbing, which was really cool. So I want to hit that feeling more often because I've definitely never experienced that before.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's elusive, but it's good. You know, it's just thinking about your goals there, which include bouldering goals and route goals. And myself just kind of coming off of this phase where I dabbled in bouldering. I got injured out in Vegas with our buddy Johan. I got injured and just kind of asked this rhetorical question, as you know, am I too old for bouldering? And I'm just wondering from your perspective, coming off of that period of injury, and you're obviously very psyched on bouldering and very talented at it, but is bouldering inherently more injurious or more risky in terms of how your body can hold up over time?
It would be very arrogant of me to respond to that, because I have no idea over time, really. I don't know. But I will say I don't think bouldering is particularly dangerous. I think there are risks in both ends of the sport. And long term, it's really hard for me to say which is worse than the other. I think in general, bouldering does require a higher level of caution. Basically, all of my injuries are from something that's not related to bouldering, though. My first finger injury, the pulley injury that I got in 2024, well, not the first injury, but the first of the streak of injuries, was from dehydration and just lack of sleep and just forcing myself to do some stuff that I shouldn't have been doing if I listened to my body better. Yes, it happened when bouldering, but it could have happened when doing literally anything.
Sure.
If I went on a run, I probably would have torn my LCL or something, or ACL. I don't want to blame that on bouldering. And all the coming injuries were also from stuff that's not related to it. So personally, I haven't had that many injuries connected strictly to bouldering. And then the question is okay, how much did the bouldering affect the injury? I herniated my disc when deadlifting. I don't think deadlifting is bad at all. It just happened to be the thing that caused the injury. Just in general, I think it's more important to listen to your body than anything in whatever sports you're doing. Maybe it's slightly easier to do that in sport climbing because you're forced to do it more. But in bouldering, you can just keep ripping and trying as hard as you can, and then maybe something pops. But I would say that's maybe overthinking it more than anything.
Ultimately, I think I kind of came to the same conclusion as I got injured bouldering, but I got injured bouldering just kind of landing funny on the pads. And it was a 3-foot drop. It wasn't a 15-foot, I came peeling off of the lip of a thing or I exploded a pulley or whatever. I've got a herniated disc that's a long-term injury that I just aggravated when I just kind of landed funny out in Vegas. But I've also injured my back even worse, sneezing funny, so it's I can't really point a big arrow to bouldering. It's just, you kind of never know when an injury is going to come, but if you can take care of yourself, then you're going to be able to hopefully avoid injuries regardless of where they might come from.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if you take it from that perspective, I think bouldering conditions you tremendously to not get injured when playing soccer or when just doing anything in the world.
Sneezing.
Sneezing. It probably conditions you not to break yourself when sneezing because it is a heavy impact sport that's, you're going to obviously wear some stuff out, but you're also going to get a lot of things a lot stronger. So there's always this, if you're performing a sport, you're going to get stronger overall. You might get an injury here and there, but generally speaking, when an injury heals up, that grows even stronger as well anyways, and you learn a lot of things about yourself. So I would say the only scenarios where I think staying clear of injury is maybe something you want to really focus on is when it's are you skipping out on a 30-foot high ball or 40-foot high ball or whatever? Maybe stay away from that because that's going to be more a serious injury. But when it's just from, if you're going to break fundamentally from the sport, I don't think bouldering is something to be scared of, or sport climbing or climbing in general. It's more once you take the risks that are very clearly in an area where you think you could get injured, don't do those.
Well, let's take our last few minutes here. God, this is such a cool conversation, man. I always appreciate how thoughtful and stoked you are. Equal parts thoughtful and stoked. And so I took so much away from this one, but I want to hear what's going on next because you and your brother have this fantasy league that you launched. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what's going on with your channel. And I've really been enjoying the stuff that you've been putting out. A lot of fun climbing stuff, which has been good. And I was watching the video you put out with Stefano recently over at Arrival of the Birds, which looked pretty nails. Looks like a hard climb. but also with Charles, and yeah, really good stuff out there. And so you're a busy dude beyond just pushing yourself as a climber. What are you working on?
Good question. It's kind of funny when we're talking here because you and I, we chat quite a lot. And I guess the listeners don't know that we talk like almost on a weekly basis, just over text, like about YouTube stuff and just in general chit-chatting. So I'll try to update as if we haven't talked about anything really, because it's kind of open-ended for me right now because I really want to focus on like a hard year of climbing, which I haven't done in quite some time, a lot due to the channel and its growth. Like I'm so freaking grateful to be able to do YouTube as much as I am. It's definitely taken quite a bit of toll on my health. Like, I don't think I would have had as many injuries for as long if I didn't do YouTube. But at the same time, like, I've enjoyed every minute of it, so I don't regret anything.
And is it, just to peel back on that a little bit, is it the stress of continuing to have to put out, you know, great stuff, and you put a lot of emphasis on the quality? You don't just like dump stuff out there. They're really thoughtful topics and edits and shots and all that. Or is it the actual physical toll of doing things like pushing yourself to the limits to make for an interesting video?
It's a bit of column A and a bit of column B. I mean, you know how much I like to overanalyze and think about things. So I do spend a tremendous amount of time just thinking of concepts and thinking of how we want to do them and just working in general with the videos. And it takes so much time to produce a video and effort, and like you pour your heart into it to make it as good as you can. So that has been very hard to balance with training and climbing and also trying to perform. Of course, when we're recording, that can sometimes be a little bit more physical than maybe I'm expecting going into it, because I get really into it. I mean, I love shooting the videos. It's like the best part of my life, you know, like it's so much fun. But sometimes, like for instance, I was doing parkour with Toby Segar last year and I sprained an ankle also, like in between these injuries. That's not going to be good for my recovery on the rest and for performance in climbing in general. But I don't regret doing that. Like, it was a ton of fun, and taking 2 weeks out from climbing was fine at the time. But it definitely is detrimental towards like performance in climbing. I'm still able to climb a lot and do what looks like hard climbs, but where I'm sort of going into that sort of max effort climbing has been quite a while since I really tried. So for instance, I know people are always asking about the Big Island.
Yeah, I've got a handful of people asked about the Big Island, so I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah, like honestly, Big Island for me is it's like the epitome of me getting back into performance climbing in a way. And I injured myself on the last trip I had where I really tried to climb on the Big Island hard. That's where I got my first, the pulley injury that started the injury streak. Right. And since then, I haven't been able to focus on it. I've been at the boulder once since, I think, with Charles, and it was so much fun. And I was super psyched that I could still do all the moves relatively easy. So that's one of the things that I want to, as the youngsters call it, lock in for and train max for it.
And cook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been told I use all of those terms incorrectly, so I'm trying to learn.
I've also been told that by my 11-year-old son.
Oh, no.
But then he also gives me things that I can use. So, yeah, that's really cool. Like, man, I wonder, because there's quite a few moves on that thing, man. Maybe this, like, sport climbing phase of yours will ultimately come back to support you on the Big Island whenever the stoke returns. So. It sounds like the stoke, it's starting to bubble up, but it's not, like, at peak stoke yet.
I would say that a pretty big part of my summer now is to train really hard for outdoor goals in bouldering for the fall. Like, after so many injuries, I want to be careful with saying like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, because I have no idea. Maybe I'll break a leg next week or something.
Well, don't say it.
But if I manage to keep myself relatively healthy, I want to do at least a few 8Cs this coming season. Like, that's
a few. At least a few. Let's go.
Yeah. If I manage to train during the summer and do the things that I want to do, like, that is high up on the menu. So, yeah, I mean, you never know. Like, if things don't turn out the way I want them to, I'll have to change that goal, of course, and adapt to it. But I definitely want a hard season of, like, max performance, like really trying to get in shape for some traveling and send some projects, send some life goals, you know?
Yes.
So, it's a mix.
Yes,
it's a mix. Yeah.
Freaking energized. I'm so energized. Okay, so that's on the climbing side. And obviously you're going to continue to make some content for the channel. You could give us a little tease of that if you'd like, and also wrap in the climbing league, the fantasy climbing league that you're doing.
Oh yeah, okay. For the YouTube channel, I mean, there's a big lineup of stuff for this. Quite a bit of like nerd stuff coming in, like researching climbing and talking about that kind of stuff, how to get stronger tendons, and yeah.
Yeah, that video that you did with Keith Barr, which I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to do very well. It like did so well. I forgot what you call it. It was like how tendons work or something like that. It was kind of like even a boring title, but it was a fun video. I mean, you in a lab coat in any video, I'm here for. But yeah, there seems to be like a higher interest level or a thirst for more understanding of how we get stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it's such in my experience, so basically for the past few weeks, I've spent time with a bunch of like such high level athletes doing a TV thing. And it's like, it's...
Yeah, is this, can you talk about this? This is like is it like a competition reality show that you're doing?
I can't say much, actually. Let's see if I have a statement, but basically I could say something like, wait, I have it right here.
This is great. This is my world. You know, I came from reality television. So
you do. So you have to sort of keep sealed stuff. It is correct that I am participating in Physical 100 Sweden, and it will be so exciting to go into this grand competition. More than that, I cannot reveal at present time.
All right, but can you tell us if you won?
That's about it. No. I cannot tell you that. Okay. No, that would be quite a heavy reveal. No, but that was really fun. But basically, it's interesting when you go into other sports because climbing is kind of strange in that way that other athletes just have such a huge array of research to work with. And our sport is so sport specific. Like, it's very technical, it's very present, it's very, it's kind of a strange sport in that way. And I don't think we've quite cracked how to train fingers in the best way possible, like in a way that you can sort of implement to another person. Like you can, of course, assume that training max hangs will help or doing the Abrahangs will help in one way or another. But it's not like it's the reason those things work is just because it's effort on your tendons. Like obviously it's going to do something. So I think there's a lot of stuff to be done, which is great. It's really fun. I'm a part of a research project regarding the Abrahangs, actually, which will be really exciting if we keep doing it. It's with Keith Barr and Natalie Gilmore and all those wonderful folks. So hopefully that will give us some more like proper insights into how we can strengthen our tendons and fingers. One of the big projects for sure is that production and that sort of subject. Yeah, but just in general, trying to make entertaining videos that hopefully, people enjoy watching. Like it's going to be a lot of different things. It would be hard to boil it all here and talk about it, actually.
We'll just keep an eye on the channel because you're always putting it's a good balance of fun and crazy and always stoked, and you're always partnering up with like the coolest climbers as well. Love the collaborations. And then let's talk about the Fantasy Climbing League, man.
It's just a little project that me and Felix, my brother, decided to put together. I don't know if people know what a fantasy league is, but in short, it's where you create a team of athletes or like a fantasy team and then have them, depending on how they perform in real life, you get a certain amount of points. So we've done the same thing for the World Cup circuit, which it's been interesting. I wasn't involved in like the fantasy community before. I've never done like fantasy football, that kind of stuff. I don't know, have you?
No, I've never done. I mean, I'm aware of how it works, but some of my friends are absolutely obsessed with it. I mean, it is definitely like a cult, I think, when you get into it. And I've never been interested in other sports, but like I'm interested in this. Like I'm interested in this. So I don't have my team, and it's probably too late because I think World Cup's going already. But
you can join actually. You can still join after the fact and get a lot of points.
Oh, okay, cool. I think I'll do it just because it's another way to engage with the World Cup events and feel a little bit more invested. Because you don't have teams really. Like you create your team.
Exactly. It just gives more, like usually if you just cheer for one person in a World Cup, you don't get a lot of time to get hyped. But if you have a team, it makes it a little bit more engaging. I will say though, I'm surprised by both the positive and the negative sides to this, because there's a lot of people who are super psyched, which is really, really fun. Like I think we have 10,000 members or something on the website. It's quite a lot of people, like especially considering how small the World Cups actually are, which is really fun. But at the same time, there's like quite a lot of hate in some of the comment sections I noticed, because apparently fantasy leagues are like a huge source of gambling and sort of all these bad things that ruin people's lives. We're not going to do that, fortunately, but I didn't realize how much people could be negative about a fantasy league, because it's like, it feels to me, because of how I relate to it, like being super anti-Pokemon or something. You know, it's just, how can you hate on something like that? But then I realized, like, oh, okay, it's because people's lives are ruined from other fantasy leagues or other sports.
I hadn't even considered that, but I mean, like, it would just be, can you imagine there just like being people's lives ruined because they picked Annie Sanders instead of Orion Bertone, and then they lost their car? Like, it just seems so far-fetched that fantasy climbing is going to ruin anybody's life. But I guess you're right. It's rooted in, you know, maybe a real place. And I guess something for listeners to keep in mind, if you have an addictive personality or gambling personality, maybe consider how being a part of a fantasy league might impact that. But for the most part, I think it's 99%. It's just going to be a fun way to engage in these climbing competitions that just make you more invested, which I think is really cool. I mean, I loved the PCL. I thought was really cool, that event. I mean, there's just like some interesting ideas and growth around competition climbing. And just talking with Noah Wheeler, he's like really hyped on figuring out like a board climbing, you know, like a way to really build board climbing in that arena. So, you know, I think we're just going to see more and more of this as people get more psyched on indoor climbing and board climbing in general.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, hey, if people want to do that, what do they, if it's not too late, I guess you can go over there. I mean, obviously, if you haven't signed up yet, you missed out on some points, but it's not really about the points anyway. It's just about doing something that's fun. So how do they get involved?
So there's two ways. Basically, you go to fantasyclimbingleague.com and you join either one of the public leagues, which is with a few, like, that's where a lot of people are. And then that's just an official league that we set up where we have a couple of thousand people participating. And then you can see how you fare against the others. It's pretty easy to beat me. I got like almost 0 points at the first comp because I just had I was hoping too much, I guess. Bad picks. Well, I'm proud of my team anyways, but maybe not the highest scoring team. So it's still definitely possible to win the league even if you join at the next World Cup. But I think maybe for people listening now, the best way to interact with it is that you can create a private league with just your friends, which is how it all started. Me and my brother had like an Excel sheet with a private league with some of our friends. Cool. And it just made everyone sort of engage a lot more and talk about like, oh, your team is crushing it. And you can do that with the remainder of the competitions. So you don't have to have the entire series in. You can just do it from like the last 3 or whatever you want to have. Yeah. So you choose when you create your league, which competitions you want to include. Oh, so cool. That's, I think, the best way to do it is to just join with your friends, like set up a crew and just enjoy the World Cups, grab a couple of beers or some, I don't know, matcha lattes and just watch the comps, see whose team beats the others and just have a good time. Yeah, super fun, man. Well, dude, this was awesome. Thank you, my man, for taking the time. I know you're super busy and you're hanging out with your pops right now. So all my best to him and to Cordy and to everything you got going on. And we'll just do this again sometime down the line. Yeah, looking forward to it. Always good chatting to you. All right, y'all, that wraps things up with Emil. Always such a good time chatting with him and just like so much psych. Dude, sky's the limit when you get a new lease on your climbing life. When you go from being forced by your doctor to think about retiring to then just like climbing the hardest thing you've ever done on a rope and eyeing the hardest boulders in the world. What a ride. What a roller coaster you just took us on, Emil. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate that. I hope you all got a lot out of this one. And I'll put some links there in the show notes to all the cool stuff he's got going on. And I also mentioned at the top here that I would tell you how I'm training up my endurance and power endurance now that we are squarely in the summer season, which puts me squarely focused on the fall season. And the answer is I'm just like going hard. I'm kind of trying to figure out what the maximum allowable dose of climbing training is for me. You know, we talk, a lot of people talk about like the minimum effective dose. And I've gone through those time periods, no doubt, just being like a super busy person and dad. But now I'm kind of swinging the pendulum the other way and time permitting, trying to find the maximum tolerable dose. I don't want to get injured. That would be so stupid. But I also want to see kind of what I'm capable of, where I can push myself. Had a birthday not too long ago. I'm 47, you guys. But you know what? Like, even though that sounds like a big number, I am
for sure, like without question, in the best shape of my life. And just climbed the hardest thing I've ever climbed just a few months ago, and I've got my sights set on the next hardest thing. So yeah, hopefully this body holds up. But I was really inspired in this conversation with Emil on just that focus that he did on getting to know his body better and doing a lot of circuits. And I just had a video come out, I think it's out by the time this comes out, I think it'll be out, with Kyra Condi, where I went and trained with her in the Condi shop on her spray wall. It's a 45-degree spray wall where like all the holds are absolute trash, and basically doing power endurance circuits on that. Learned a lot from that session, had that recent conversation with Dr. Tyler Nelson about critical force and power endurance. And so anyway, I'm cherry picking, taking some good things away from that in order to just build a lot of resilience and capacity to my body so I can push very hard this fall and get a lot of good quality goes on the routes that I want to do. So that's kind of on the climbing side, like on the kind of the training side. And then on the technique side, I'm working with Coach Nate Drolet to help me to learn how to climb better and more efficient, and especially use my feet in ways that I think I have a lot of opportunity to improve in. So yeah, just, the multi-pronged climbing is a life skill kind of journey that I'm on right now. I'll talk more about that in the upcoming plog. You guys know I put out a podcast log once a month called The Plog, where I really dive deep on kind of how I'm training and performing and all of that. I dip into my Intentional Climber app, which, as you know, I think by now, or hopefully you know by now, I am a co-founder of, and we've been developing it for over a year, and it just has really helped me to keep on track and focused with all of my sessions, and then reflect at the end of my sessions so that when I start my next training session, I come into it with like a really clear idea and vision of what I want to accomplish, what I want to work on. And that's been so helpful for me, especially as I'm trying to keep track of a lot of different kind of metrics right now with my power endurance training, and also like these technique drills that Nate has me doing. So yeah, a lot of cool, fun resources in there. So I'll dip into that in the next plog and reference those journal entries so I can fill you in on what I'm doing. And then I'd really love to hear what you're doing. If you want to reach out to me and let me know, it just kind of keeps me psyched. We can exchange notes and all of that. So yeah, thank you for your support. Hit me up anytime. I hope you're freaking awesome and enjoying summer. Or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, like I just returned from in Australia. Of course, I'm pre-recording this, so I'm speaking about myself in the future tense. But by the time this comes out, I will have just returned from Australia, where it's winter. I hope you're enjoying the winter. Anyway, you're awesome. I'll see you soon.